All right.
Hello, Facebook. How are you? Happy April Fool's Day, Maundy Thursday, or as we Catholics say, Holy Thursday. And it's a blustery, wintry day here in Pittsburgh. I hope it's nicer where you are. And we're looking forward to a lively conversation here with Command Sergeant Major retired Bart Womack. Boy, this is going to be fun. And Bart, we're going to let people in about a minute, and we'll have a theme song. We'll do some welcome. Okay. And I mentioned, I want to share this TikTok with people that I think you'll find entertaining. Love to hear your story if you're willing to tell it as a drill instructor. And then we have some new people here in the waiting room. Very good. This is a great crowd. Very good. So did any of you get pranks played on you today, April Fool's Day?
I did not.
No pranks.
Either did I, which worries me. Because I have
There's
a prankster wife. It's coming. Exactly. It's coming. That's my fear. It may come during the program. That's what I'm worried about. She's going to come behind me, dump something on my head.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. All right. Should we hit it?
Let's hit it.
Hey, Ben. Good to see you, Ben Keene. I hope you could hear us. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Generation 9/11. I'm Todd DiPastino, the director of the Veterans Breakfast Club, sitting in for Sean Hall. This is his program. He asked if I could just open the program, and then he said he would join us later and could take it from there. Little does he know that once he turns the mic over to me, it is not easy to get back. So we'll just see how that goes. But I'm looking at some new faces here, and I'm very grateful that you all joined us. Ben Keene, how are you, Ben? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Is this Colonel John Robinson at the 911th Airlift Wing? Good to see you, Colonel. Thank you for joining us. We have Jack Morrow. Larry Woods is connecting. Angela, great to see you again. Bob Young. How have you been, Bob? Would you mind unmuting yourself? I just want to say hello because I hadn't talked to you in a while.
I'm doing well. We got about 20 veterans in this building, and there's only 80 some people, but they all don't have computers. And I invited a guy up tonight from Italy to talk to you, and he didn't show up.
Well, Bob, so you have veterans, quite a few veterans in your community there in your building.
20 out of 87.
Okay. I should talk to you about getting you some iPads that maybe they could use. They could connect if there's Wi-Fi in the building.
Yeah, there is.
Why don't I look at George Kniss. Hey, George, I like your goofy So Bob, I haven't seen you in a while. You've been okay?
Oh yes, I'm doing very well.
Good, great.
The second week now from the code vine thing, and so should be okay.
You'll be all covered. That's great.
Yeah.
We have Mr. Masters. Thank you from Toronto. Wonderful joining us. George Kniss, why are you wearing the goofy hat?
It is April 1st.
Of course.
And I want to give a perspective on Vietnam War from Soviet side. Okay. It's April Fool's Day. It's April Fool's Day.
No, George. I know
it's winter. It's winter.
I know. Yes. So let me ask the room before we are going to get to our guest, Bart Womack, who Command Sergeant Major, 29 years in the Army. We were talking here right before we went live, And I just realized after talking just a few minutes with Bart, he has pretty much a story for everything. He retired as a command sergeant major in the Army after 29 years. His roles, honor guard at as Sergeant of Arms at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, drill instructor, Ranger School graduate, Ranger School instructor, platoon leader. I mean, you name it, Bart has done it. And one of the things that he's done, in addition to his acting and activism on behalf of veterans since he left the military, is he wrote a book called Embedded Enemy about the first fragging attack since the Vietnam War. And Bart was there, and he was there on March 23rd, 2003, when one of his tents and three others, I believe, of his brigade of the 101st Airborne Division were attacked by one of the 101st's own sergeant. And we're going to talk about that night and about that day and a lot about Bart's other service. But I almost got him to promise that he would be able to come back to talk to us also about his work at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and also as a drill instructor. So we do want to get to that. And so we will get to that, Bart. But I just want to, did anybody have a prank played on them today that was worthy of sharing?
I think we all did with the weather.
Yeah, exactly. It's blustery and snowy here today in Pittsburgh after like a 76-degree day that we had 2 days ago. I was just saying before we went live that I've not had a prank played on me, which makes me very scared because I have a prankster wife, and if she hasn't done it yet, that means it's coming. So you have to have my back. Right. No one else. Alicia Mock, I don't recall you being on our program before. I just want to say hello and welcome you to.
Well, thank you. I work with Onward to Opportunity, so that's how I know Bart.
That's it. Onward to Opportunity. That is what Bart is doing now at the, yes. I wonder. So Colleen Schuster, you're also, do you want to say a few words about Onward to Opportunity? Why don't we right now, right out of the gate? You work with the Institute for Veterans and Military Families out of Syracuse University. What kind of work does Onward to Opportunities do?
Well, I work out of the Fort Bragg office. Our program manager is Mr. Ken Mays, but we provide training and for certifications to our veterans, our transitioning military, our military spouses, National Guard, and our reservists.
That's wonderful. And Colleen, you work out of which office?
I actually work directly with Bart. Bart is my program manager here at Pittsburgh. Alicia covered it. So we do provide no-cost certifications and training for those transitioning service members, veterans, and spouses. And we're a very passionate group here at Onward to Opportunity, as you probably know, I've spoken with Bart in the past.
Yes, and I found it fascinating. Bart, please interrupt me any moment you want, but I found it fascinating that you do work with, transitioning military, yet your own transition out of the military after 29 years wasn't that hard for you compared to other people.
Well, it comes down to knowing what you want to do. And my path was not the corporate America path. I had done some homework on the path that I chose, and it ended up being, I got very lucky in regards to getting to where I was trying to get to very quickly, but my path was not the corporate America path. So long story as to why I stopped doing that at that particular time. But when I came back to the corporate America way, I was as confused as people transitioning out because I didn't pay attention to all that stuff because I wasn't doing that. There's no transition for, at least in all the classes, on opportunity, anything out there, there's nothing that teaches you how to go to Hollywood and be an actor, military technical advisor. So
Right.
I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to come back. So I had to figure all that stuff out as well. I do want to thank my IVMF Onward Opportunity folks for being on here. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be here. And just one last thing, Todd, I just want to say Ben is a graduate of Onward Opportunity.
Oh, excellent, Ben, excellent. And it's good to see you, Ben. I haven't seen you in a long time. How have you been?
Doing good, man. This pandemic has been rather interesting for my family. As you can see, my surroundings are different. My wife and I bought a house in September, so I'm now a homeowner. And we're expecting our first child, my third, in 3 weeks.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah. So
3 weeks.
Yeah, we're at 3 weeks now. Well, 2 and some change. She is beyond ready. But yeah, we're on the final countdown. So life has been a little hectic. But obviously Sergeant Major said, "Hey, I'm talking about my book. And I'll do anything for Sergeant Major." He knows that. I was actually with the unit when the attack happened. I wear Chris every day. He's at one of my wrists. And the insight that's the night of the attack and the days following the attack are truly what led our brigade and our battalions forward to the success we saw in Iraq. And I really credit Sergeant Major for not just my life, but the life of the brigade, because without his leadership, our brigade would have fallen apart.
And that was the 1st Brigade of the 327th Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division that had an important mission in Iraq and part of the invasion in 2003. And that very much, I'm eager to get to that subject, because I would imagine when something like this, an insider attack happens, you either do fall apart or, man, you get it together like fast. And I don't know what it takes to keep a unit together and on mission or on purpose when you have that destabilizing kind of event happen. And we'll get to that shortly. One last thing before I play this TikTok that I want to play. I want to welcome Colonel John Robinson, who's the commander of the 911th Airlift Wing. Hello, Colonel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I just got through flying, so got the email from Mark Winklowski and was glad to see it and get the opportunity to tune in today. Thanks,
well,
Todd, thanks, Todd, for all you do. You do a great job on bringing these guys together and telling their story. It's amazing.
Well, thank you, Colonel. And I might use this opportunity to publicly embarrass you into maybe promising that you'll come on sometime and to talk about what it's like working at the 911th and what you've been up to.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Before we get started, this is April Fool's Day. I'm not going to play any joke or anything like that, but I am going to play something that I thought was hilariously funny that anybody who is through basic training or boot camp, I think, would be able to relate to. And it is a TikTok. As you know, the Veterans Breakfast Club had the strange experience of going viral on TikTok a couple times in the past year. And Ellie, my daughter here, is the tender of our TikTok account. I don't know the first thing about TikTok, but I do know funny when I see it. And so we shared this through our email bulletin not long ago. And I thought I would play it. It's very short and see if how many people here could relate to this. It's called Reasons My Drill Sergeant Made Me Do Push-Ups.
Reasons my drill sergeant made me do push-ups part 2. 1, I blinked too much information. Honestly, that's on me. I should have just gotten rid of my eyelids. That way I would never have to blink again. Number 2, it was my birthday. This is 100% my fault. I just should never been born in the first place. That's on me. Number 3, I got no mail during basic training. This is my fault for not having a loving family. I should have been a better kid growing up, but that's on me. Number 4, he didn't like my face. In a world full of plastic surgery, this is 100% my fault. That's on me. I should have just went ahead and altered the way I looked. But yeah, that's on me.
Right. I love that. All right. I love that. And he's got many of those, right? This is 2 in the series of 8 or 10 or something like that. Bart Womack, you were a drill sergeant. What do you think?
I agree with him. He should have all that stuff before he reported basic training. That's it.
Did you ever give reasons like that to have one of your recruits do push-ups or do whatever he had to do?
Yeah, I don't remember all of them. I would say, so a few things stand out. There's a guy that was, taller than me, and his name was Nipper. And I always had to get on Nipper about shaving. So I nicknamed him Nipper Face. And I would never look up at him aside from the shaving thing. Once I knew that, after that, every time I talked to him, I just looked in his chest. and I made him do. He didn't have to do push-ups, but he had to get down in the push-up position because I said, I'm not going to look up to you ever.
Is that what you got in trouble for?
No, I didn't get in trouble. I could have gotten in trouble. Colonel Robinson, this is where you get to use your earplugs. Good to see you, sir. So it was early morning. Troops were going into the dining facility, mess hall to eat, and we were headed out to the range. So all those range days in basic training are pretty early. So a troop did something and made him get down for push-ups. And I don't know what I said. Who knows what I say? But I probably say you can stay there all day or something like that, I'm sure. So everyone goes in to eat, and I go in to eat, and everyone goes in to eat. And then we were in the middle of the meal, and Drill Sergeant taps me on the shoulder, and a colleague, and says, hey, that soldier's still out there in the front lane of rest. I'm like, oh, I get out and run. I took care of it. That was pretty bad. I felt bad, but I still feel bad about that. It's one thing to do them, but I told you earlier before everyone got on about the whole training value. I'm not sure what the training value was in that, but I was 23, and I apologize to that training.
So he wasn't doing a lot of learning there when you when you left him there.
Well, maybe because they listen.
Didn't do it again. Bart Womack is the author of Embedded Enemy, and this is the story that we're going to talk about today mostly. This is a book. We will put a link to the book here on the Zoom side and on the Facebook Live side. First-hand account of true events, Embedded Enemy. We have met the enemy, and it is us, and it is the story of that that attack on March 23rd, 2003. And it wasn't in Iraq. It was in Kuwait. It was at
Correct.
Camp Pennsylvania.
Correct.
Camp Pennsylvania in Kuwait. That was right in the first week of the invasion. I do want to, however, emphasize, I want to just, for those of you who aren't too familiar with military culture, I do want to emphasize this rank that you retired at, Command Sergeant Major. This is the highest enlisted rank you could be, E9. It is a position that comes with a great deal of responsibility. It is a very difficult position to achieve. Only 1% of anybody enlisted can have this rank at any one time. And then I want to show also here this wonderful picture of Bart, because it has you can see that he's a Command Sergeant Major here, but you also see these wonderful, I guess I call them hash marks, but I don't know what you call them, stripes on the sleeve. Do they each represent 3 years in the service?
Correct.
Okay, that's what it is. So I could count, I think there are 9 of them, and I just know that because I could count to 9. I think there are 9 of them, so it represents 27 years. And so you were just shy of having a 10th stripe there on your sleeve. When you first joined the Army, did you want to make a career out of it?
That was not in my thoughts at all.
What did you think? Why did you join?
Wow, that's a good question. I graduated high school at 17. I credit the 17-year-olds and know what the heck they want to do with their life. They're awesome if they have that figured out. I did not have that figured out. So I worked. I had been working ever since I was 12 years old. 10 years old with a paper route. And then I found other jobs that actually paid pretty well. So I was used to working. And I worked when I was in high school, and not because I had to, because I wanted money. So I wasn't ready for college. My brain wasn't there yet. So I continued to work. I said, I'll work for a year and then I'll go to college after that. And I had a car, but the next oldest brother wrecked the car. So I had to take the bus to work. It was a pretty long way. So one day coming back from work, I had to transfer buses, and it was cold, November. And I saw the recruiting officer and said, let me go in here and get warm. Of course, you got to hear the whole spiel from the recruiter about the military, blah, 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 right? So I let him talk while I got warm. And then I left. And now they're calling you. And he can call all he wanted to because I was 17. And if he didn't catch my mother at home, it was not going to happen. So he never caught my mother at home. And there's nothing he could do. So the thought, I don't know if the thought was ever there at that particular time. I entertained it a bit, but like I said, I was going to get warm. So anyway, he finally caught my mother at home. I turned 18 in December, and then I made a decision to join. So that was February 18th in that next year. But at the time, I didn't know anything about the military. I thought only ranger I knew, and all you can poke fun at me, it's the truth, is only ranger I knew was a Yogi and Scooby, that park ranger. Yep. I was introduced to airborne when I was in basic training. So I went to do that. Why? Oh, because it paid more money. You jump out of airplanes, you pay more money? Okay, I don't care how you do it, I'm doing it. $55 is down, I'm down with $55 more. But I didn't know what airborne was. So it's kind of ironic, but not knowing a darn thing about the military that I stayed that long.
And you stayed that long, obviously, because you liked it, right? There's something about it that, you know, you cotton to. And what was it, do you think?
I think by the time I decided to be a drill sergeant, I saw the different paths to grow in the military. And the drill sergeant was the thing at the time. That if you were the drill sergeant, you were the it.
Yeah.
So I set my focus on being a drill sergeant. And once I achieved that, then I began to learn leadership. You're taking someone's child and you're making them something. And this, you're making them a soldier. And that became to grow on me that I was actually making a difference and doing something impactful, like being able to create that transition in someone's life, and they're going to leave from there and go do great things in the military. So I think it was probably about that time, which is about the 5 years in the military.
You know, drill instructor is a profound job, and you change lives as a drill instructor. And I would love to do a program this summer and get 2 or 3 or 4 drill instructors talking about that job, because I understand it's a very difficult job. I mean, you can only do it for what, a year, maybe 2 years at most, because it's just exhausting, correct?
Well, it's a 2-year commitment that you can stay for 3.
You could stay for 3.
You could at that time.
Okay, it's demanding. I mean, it's 24/7, from what I understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get some time in there, but because there's different cycles that you're going to be going through. So you have those people for a certain amount of time, and they graduate, and maybe you get a cycle break before you pick up the next. But it's pretty fast paced.
Yes. And Lisa Reffner in the comments here just messaged me to remind me that you were also a sentinel and a relief commander and a sergeant. Was this called sergeant at arms, meaning in charge of the staff at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at Arlington?
So it's in charge of the entire Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but the title is Sergeant of the Guard.
Sergeant of the Guard. Okay. And again, that's another program we want to do. And in fact, I would love to do it on May 24th, Monday, May 24th. So if any of you out there, if any of you are listening and you know somebody who served as a guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, please do let me know, and I'll reach out to them and ask them if they could join us. And also, if any of you know anybody who served as a drill instructor in any branch of service, would love to have them on too and compare notes. So many people have told me that the last thing you'll forget will be the name of your mother, and then the name of your drill instructor, as you grow older. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So you stayed in, you liked the military life, and I know that I hope we'll have time to maybe talk about that incident, that crazy incident I remember hearing you talk about in Korea, right? When you actually exchanged fire with the North Korean army.
Yeah, this is one that most people don't know about embedded enemy, but they really don't know about this one.
Let's talk about this one a little bit, because I find this story so fascinating, and I do not remember hearing about it back home at the time.
So 1984, I Googled this to learn about it. Okay, just kidding. A lot of people weren't even born on this call, but anyway, 1984. It was November, actually Thanksgiving there in Korea, so roughly 13 hours ahead of time. So I was at what's called the JSA, or Joint Security Area. That's where I worked. That was my job. And in that job, we the rotation was, we called it 2 days QRF, 2 days north, 2 days training, 2 days off. That was kind of your rotation. So we were up north, which is in the JSA proper. If you're not familiar with the JSA, that's where they have all the peace talks from both Koreas, north and south. A few buildings up there. Inside those buildings, there's once you get on one side of the building, you're coming from the south, obviously. And there's tables where they would do the peace talks, and then the table there's microphones on both sides, and then wire across the table, which indicates the north from south. Once you're inside, you can walk obviously to the north side, and then when there was tours, you'd lock the other side so the KPA or the Korean People's Army from the north couldn't come in, and that was kind of one of those agreement things that no one would breach. So it was Thanksgiving that day, and just going to be kind of a nothing day going on because there weren't no tours or anything like that.
I'm just sharing a picture of the
Yeah.
JSA. This is right on the border of the 38th parallel between North and South Korea, where the two sides face off each other. And this is a building where peace talks are often held.
No, not up there. That's the guy.
No, that's not.
The blue ones are where the peace talks are.
Oh, the blue ones.
So the one in the middle is called the GOC. That's where their kind of headquarters is, and all the soldiers are in there.
So this is North Korean right here.
That's North Korea right there.
And these are the peace talk. Okay, that makes sense.
If you see the little concrete, you see the gravel, then up to the concrete.
Yep.
That's the line.
Here.
Yes.
That's the line.
That's the line. But where the guys are
right in between. Okay, right in between these two color different. Okay.
Right. But where they're standing, they're not going to go past that, but that's technically the line up there where that concrete is.
Jeez. Okay.
So on this day, go back to the picture, please.
Okay. All right.
That's perfect. So you see these guards standing here. So we had guards out there on that particular day, not necessarily where the one is in the middle, but just outside in general. So because they had tours that day. And if you can go past that concrete, you see kind of like a street, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Where these guys are standing here at the end, there were people standing there. So there's KPA there, as well as two visitors that were taking a tour on the North Korean side. And
KPA is Korean People's Army.
Correct. So what happened was the tourists there, the ones who were taking a tour, one of them said, "Look, take a picture of me." So when he took the picture, the person who was on tour had his back to the south. So when you see these guys standing on this side, that's the south.
Yep.
Back to the south, the guard was standing beside him, and then his buddy took a picture of him. As his buddy was taking the picture, he turned around, took off running like right through there, and then kind of to the right of your screen, and you follow a road and all that. Well, the guard came after him.
So I'm sorry, Bart. I'm just to clarify. So there was somebody taking a picture of another North Korean.
It was, so the two guys that were on the tour, taking a tour there, they were from China.
They were from China, but they were on the North Korean side.
Correct, communist side.
Got it. And the guy who took the picture used the opportunity to escape to South Korea.
The guy who was in the picture used the opportunity to escape.
Okay, guy who was in the picture.
And all along, it was a plan. He had planned that for 2 years to defect from communist China this way.
Man. And so then what happened?
So he runs, and the guard comes after him. Now, at the time, we didn't have guards standing this close. They weren't in that position right there. They were in different parts of the JSA. And then other guards came across, so they started shooting at him as he was running. Then that started a firefight. Of course, we started shooting back. That GOC, as you see there, just started being flooded with KPA coming out. We probably had a 30-person force. 32, I think to be exact, 32, 34. Half of them were U.S. soldiers, the other half were Korean soldiers. They were called Clcv, which is Korean augmented to United States Army.
Right.
On that day, they didn't fight. They stayed inside our building, which is kind of to the right here and further down the hill. They didn't come out and fight. So it was really 16 against the whole damn GOC that came out there. So there was a little firefight that went on for a while.
You were part of that. You were part of that firefight?
Yes, yes. So two people that we had out there that were guarding some workers on our side, they were the ones to exchange fire first. Again, everything was U.S. and Katusha. One of Katusha's got shot in the face here. He went up on a heel pad and kind of got high when everyone else was low. So he got killed. And then 5 of the KPA were killed that day.
Man, what a story. I am finding another, this may be an image akin to it. Let me see. I'll find out more. I should have done my research. I'm sorry about this, and gotten some pictures. This looks like the kind of tour group that might have been coming together.
And you see how they position themselves. So when you see the guy, not the two facing each other, but the one with his back to you, the guy taking the tour was standing beside him. His buddy was taking the picture. So because they didn't have these other two that you see there on the sides, they weren't out there.
Okay.
One guard that was standing in that position.
Oh
but
my.
You see that raised concrete there?
That's it. That's the line, right?
Yeah.
That raised concrete right there.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Then there's different checkpoints throughout the JSA, and you could go up to them. They come out of their guard post, as long as they're on their side and we're on our side. You know, someone would spit. They would spit. They would spit at you right there in that particular area of the JSA itself. Someone wouldn't. Someone would just look at you. You just stare at them, stare back.
Jeez. That must have been. I mean, you know, that's how World War III starts here, Bart, you know, with things like that. Did you know what was happening at the time, or did you just know we're being fired upon?
I just knew we were being fired upon. We were having a platoon sergeant meeting, I guess a squad leader meeting, the 3 squad leaders with the platoon sergeant and platoon leader, when we heard the first shots being fired. I mean, you know, anyone who's heard those routinely knows what they sound like and know it's not like a hammer hitting wood. So we would come up there with our M16s at the time, and we'd take them apart and put them in a laundry bag, and then we'd store them, or we kept our laundry bag beside us and put the weapons together once we got up into the building. And then there was a room that had all kinds of ammunition in it. We knew they had AK-47s, they knew we had M16s. So it wasn't a secret, you just couldn't bring it out.
You just couldn't bring them out. Okay.
But when those shots started firing, everyone started filing to the arms room to get ammo. Well, most people we get ammo when you first get up there. So, but you could get additional ammo, and then it was just outside to take on this firefight. So there wasn't much protection from that. There was really a couple of deuce and a halves that we had to get under to shoot from, because you didn't want to be high again. You want to be that high silhouette. So that took us for a little while. Myself and my team leader, we went upstairs and knocked the window out because we knew they were coming into what's called the sunken garden up there. Sunken garden, this beautiful, gigantic goldfish that I think they get from Japan. So the KPA was flooding in that sunken garden and shooting from there. And so we go upstairs to get a vantage point down that sunken garden, and had a 203 and shot a 203 round there. And first thing I tell my team leader, okay, don't hit the tree, because where the tree was, our soldiers right below there. I said, don't hit the tree, don't hit any limbs of the tree, because that round's going to ricochet. We don't know where the heck it's going to go. Well, he shoots the round and hits the tree. So I hit him upside his helmet. I said, don't hit the tree. So then he shoots again, and then this is combat, ladies and gentlemen, I just have to tell you. But so he shoots the second round, and you hear it explode, and then you hear hollering, so you know that that's the target.
Oh boy. And so this is your first combat experience.
Yes.
And here's a map of the security area. I shared a great article. It looks like a great article from armyhistory.org, which is the website for the National Museum of the Army, here on the Zoom side in the chat, if you want to follow up on this story an interesting one, and one of those. There were so many of these flashpoints during the Cold War, and this was part of that larger Cold War at the time. And now it's a. What happened to the guy defecting? Asked Terry.
So he followed the road and made his way to what we call checkpoint one. It's like the first checkpoint coming into the JSA itself. And like I said, this was his plan. So we you didn't really have to apprehend him, but it commandeered him, took him to interrogate him and everything. And he said, revealed this was his plan. It had been his plan for 2 years. He had no regret. He had regret that one of our soldiers got wounded, and then that, like I said, the Clcv was killed.
Right.
It was his regret.
But he made it, and he defected. It was a successful defection.
Yes.
Let's leap ahead to March 2003 with the invasion of, because I mean, in a sense, they're connected. I imagine you didn't. Did you have combat experience between those two experiences, 1984, 2003, 19 years later?
Not rounds fired.
Okay.
No, not rounds fired. Right. I like to say you deploy, you get ammo issued to you, then it's potential for combat, but rounds weren't fired. So rounds weren't fired in Haiti during the when they ousted the President Aristide.
Yes.
And same with Kosovo. Now a lot of bombers in Kosovo, but no rounds fired.
Okay, wonderful. And I see Carl Curtis in the waiting room. He's another drill sergeant, Marine. We'll have to have him on that drill instructor program. Is this you back in 2003?
Yeah, I think that was taken in 2004, coming back from Iraq.
Coming back from Iraq, okay.
See that tan, don't you?
Excuse me?
You see that tan? You go back to that picture, it's darker than this guy.
You see here. There, that is, yeah. And this is what, you in Kuwait, Iraq?
That's actually in Kuwait. It's on Camp Pennsylvania.
Okay, Camp Pennsylvania. And was this in Camp Pennsylvania?
That's in Iraq, what we call so that's a old bombed out Iraqi air base that we commandeered. That ended up being our home for 10 and a half months.
10 and a half months. So you lived there, Ben Keene. You.
So the funny story about this particular thing, especially what it looks like there in that picture, is the commander. So we were on the other side of this airfield in some hangars. We were sleeping in hangars, and I ventured on this side of the air base and saw this building and other buildings where our whole headquarters could stay. And I bring the commander over. We need to move over here and get out of that hangar. We're all on top of each other in that hangar. We need to come over here. And the building wasn't clean or anything like that. Oh, it's dirty. It's bombed out. It's dirty. Blah, blah. He just had all kinds of excuses, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So what you don't get, maybe Colonel Robinson, you experienced this, maybe or maybe not. I don't know. But I'm going to win, and I keep score. I keep little tick marks in every time I tell the commander something, and then I have to come back and tell him, and then I win. You like 1, 2, 3, 4 cross, 1, 2, 3, 4 cross. So this was another one of those, games, if you will. So I wait a week, and then I take a team over there and clean up the building or whatever, so it's not dirty and all this stuff, and then bring him over there again. He says, okay, we're going to move. Well, at the time, we didn't know how long we were going to be in Iraq. It just was not known. We had no idea. So I joke with him now. He's retired 3-star. I joke with him now. Had it not been for me, we'd still be in that daggone hangar.
Yeah, and from the troop side of the house, the one thing I'll share with people, if I may, when we got the orders that we were moving, the part that Sergeant Major left out is the distance of what we were traveling. And, we were set up, we were on top of each other, and it wasn't exactly the most comfort of livings, but it was okay, especially for a combat zone. And for me as an NCO to tell my troops, hey, pack it up, we're leaving, we're going across the airfield. And then from there realize how far across the airfield we were going. A lot of troops weren't best friends with Sergeant Major. But again, it was one of those things. Sergeant Major says NCOs execute, soldiers do. And honestly, like once we got set up and configured, every soldier like, oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. One personal story is right after we moved, my parents sent me a small swimming pool. It's about 6 feet long and 3 feet wide and a couple of feet deep, little inflatable pool. And I had that outside of the building, and people would, we go out, do our missions, come back and get in this pool. Where we got the water, I won't say because Sergeant Major will probably kill me, but we actually had a pool because they had it at the division headquarters. They had all the pools and all the fancy stuff.
And that's hilarious. Your parents sent you like a blow up pool?
A legit blow up pool. Yeah.
You had to ask them for that. They're not going to think of that on their own, right?
Oh no, 100%. I asked for that because, I had friends at division and they're living on, so that airfield is called Q West.
Yes.
They were living at what later became the Eagle's Nest, which was Saddam's Northern Palace in Mosul. And, my friends are sending me pictures of them laying out by the pool and all this other crap. And here I am in this bombed out freaking piece of crap building, and they're sleeping in palaces. And I wrote an email home to my parents. I was like, hey, would you do me a favor? And about a month later, I got a mail call, and there's this big old box with my name on it. And the swimming pool was there.
Oh my gosh. Good parents. That's hilarious. That's the first time I've heard something like that. I should remind people that we're talking about, Bart Womack, Ben Keene served in the 101st Airborne Division, which at the time was commanded by General David Petraeus. And their performance in this phase of the war was absolutely, from everything I've read, outstanding. I mean, absolutely outstanding. Books have been written about how the success of your mission kept the insurgency down in Mosul where you were. That it just, it was just other parts of the war weren't going well, but this part was. And maybe we could talk about that. But I want to go a little further back before you got to Iraq, to Camp Pennsylvania here this is Kuwait, a staging area for the invasion of Iraq. You're at Camp Pennsylvania. You must have arrived early March?
Right.
What was your first impression when you arrived in Kuwait?
I think as advertised, the funny part getting to the camp was, so when the unit deploys, everyone didn't go at once. It's kind of, in phases, if you will. And I brought up the rear, so the commander and the command team, all them, and you don't want to fly together if at all possible. But so I kind of brought up the rear, and every soldier that could go, was going. And
can I ask you a stupid question? Let me ask you a stupid question that only somebody who hasn't served in the military would probably ask. How did you get there? I mean, do you fly into kind of Kuwait City and then get on buses, or do you get on helicopters? How does it work?
Buses. It was buses. So flew into Kuwait City, then it was buses all the way out there. And I don't know where those drivers came from, but it was pretty hilarious because it's on the desert floor going there. They would, if it was 5 buses, 3 of them would get side by side instead of ducks in a row, and they were like racing across the desert floor. It was scary and hilarious at the same time. Like, who vetted these darn drivers that it's like the Indy Desert Kuwait 500. It was funny, but
so they're not necessarily driving on roads.
I was thinking we're not going to make it to the war. Bus drivers.
No, Todd, there were no roads. I can tell you, I mean, that was some of the most bone-shattering, high-speed bus rides I've ever been on my life, was that bus ride from Kuwait City.
Right. So you're getting a memorable experience even before the war begins. You're just getting into position. And then the war begins. And what is your role then? I think the invasion happens. Is it March 19th, 18th, 19th? The ground invasion, I think.
So the attack happened on the 23rd, which was a Sunday.
Yeah.
The shock and awe was that Thursday before, if you
Okay.
track. So that started the war, was that shock and awe.
Right.
I call it, I mean, that was the official name. I guess I call it bombs on Baghdad, but
Right. And then Shuf starts moving out. And what are you all doing on the 23rd? What are you getting ready to do?
Well, again, the 23rd is when the attack happened. So prior to that, up until the 22nd, we're getting, it's all the final plans and coordination and everything to cross the border. That Saturday, the 22nd, we thought that we were going to be crossing the border the next Thursday. Some were going to air assault in, some were going to GAC in, which is ground assault convoy, which means you're going to ride in the vehicle all the way there.
Okay.
But the date was going to be that next Thursday.
Okay.
From
Okay.
that's what we knew on that Saturday. So the ammo, it just came that day.
The ammo had just come that day.
That day, yes. In the evening, as a matter of fact, about 5 or 6 p.m. at dusk.
On the 23rd?
On the 22nd.
On the 22nd, the ammo
Right.
arrives, and this is important as people will hear. The ammo arrives Saturday night, and that's part of your preparation for invading Iraq.
Correct.
Got it. And I'm going to show this looks like, is this your area?
Yeah, so we call it, everything was called. So all this is the whole camp of Camp Pennsylvania. I would say roughly it's about 2 miles in this circumference, if you will, around.
Okay.
And all these little things are pads. If you can show your arrow there. There we go.
Yeah, here.
Back to the middle, pad 7 is where the headquarters was. HAC Brigade headquarters was there. You see the TOC and HAC there.
Yep.
And then the outer ones are the different pads had units. So if you go, let's go to number 2.
And what is a TOC? What is a TOC?
Tactical Operations Center.
Okay.
Let's go up to pad 1. That was the 801st Main Support. It should be a B there. My mistake. Main Support Battalion. Go over to the 426. They're on pad 2. That's our forward support battalion. Pad 3 had one of our infantry battalions, 3rd to 327. Pad 4 had 2nd to 327. So make note of pad 4 and 2nd 327. That's where the attacker comes from. Go to pad 5 was the 1st Battalion Infantry.
That's you. That's you, right?
No.
Okay.
No. So the headquarters, HHC 1st Brigade.
Got it. 1st Brigade.
That's the brigade combat team headquarters.
Got it.
Within that is the 327th Infantry Regiment.
Got it.
In the 327th Infantry Regiment is 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, and 3rd Battalion.
Got it.
So it's kind of 2 names at the brigade combat team level.
Right.
And then you see pad 6 there. And then the aid station as well. So I'd make note of pad 7, pad 4, and the aid station.
In the aid station, right here, right in line here. Okay. What were you doing Sunday evening?
Saturday
evening.
So again, all the plans had been done, and we're just really kind of waiting on Thursday at this point. Probably about 5 p.m. Everything was kind of done. All the planners were finished with everything, and it really first time to exhale for the first time in 3 weeks. So my plan was I figured out how to get golf on the television that was left in my tent. So we took over from another unit, which was 3rd ID, 1st Brigade of 3rd ID, tank unit. They rolled out, and we assumed that camp. They were on there before we were, and then they pushed out to the desert.
So hold it.
Television in that tent there, in the command tent. So I figured out how to get golf on the television.
Okay, I heard you right then. Golf, like golfing, like Jack Nicklaus on the Tiger Woods.
Yep. Yeah.
You want to watch golf?
Figure out how to get golf on there, and I was watching the. At the time, it was called the not the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Well, I can't remember what the heck it was called. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, the golf tournament. So I had watched it on Thursday. I watched it on Friday. I fell asleep in a chair watching it, and then I was ready for Saturday. We had a little shop at there. I bought me all kinds of snacks and everything. I'm ready to watch golf all night. I think it didn't come on till about almost midnight. And have my snacks. I'm watching golf. We just got our ammo, and I'm loading my ammo into my magazines. And I'm on my computer doing bill pay.
And then what happens?
Let's go to. I'm gonna show this video now.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So I will tell you in the video how everyone hears about how the media is in a hurry to get the story, right? So they're always in a hurry to get the story. And actually, our media guys that was attached to us actually got in trouble for trying to report everything before we knew all the facts and everything. So, but when you do that, you leave out some pieces or you misreport some things. So one thing is said in there about a grenade going off of my tent. They said it didn't go off, but one did go off. I think he's probably making mention to the fact of the one that sparks or whatever. So let me share screen. Colleen, are you there to help me with this?
I got you. Just make sure to click the share audio.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Now I can't find what I'm looking for. I had it all teed up, ladies and gentlemen. Now I can't.
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time. No rush.
Wait a minute. Here we go. Show all windows. Come down. Oh, here we go. Share audio. It's already checked.
Good.
Let's do.
There we go. Yeah, we see it. That's good.
And
good morning to you. An American soldier with the 101st Airborne in Kuwait is suspected of killing one of his comrades and injuring others in an early morning grenade attack. CBS News correspondent Mark Strassman was just a few feet away at the time.
Bedlam and possibly betrayal jolted this camp awake overnight in Kuwait. In seconds, 3 grenades were tossed into 3 separate tents where soldiers, mostly officers with the 101st Airborne, were sleeping. In the tent of Colonel Ben Hodges, this camp's commander, his command sergeant major, Bart Womack, suddenly noticed sparks on their tent floor.
Ran to the back of the tent. The commander was back there asleep. Ran back to the tent to get him up, simultaneously to kind of get him down away from the explosion.
That grenade never exploded, but the other 2 did in tents that were directly behind mine. I heard 2 powerful booms, then screaming. When confused soldiers inside those tents ran outside, at least one of them was shot, investigators believe, by the same attacker. Just as startling, the search quickly focused on a U.S. soldier, a sergeant engineer living in this camp. He was found hiding in a bunker, wounded. Colonel Ben Hodges.
He became a suspect when, of course, after this all happened, we tried to get accountability of everybody. And they noticed that 4 hand grenades are missing and that the sergeant was unaccounted for. So
4 grenades, 3 tossed into tents, and the 4th found inside the suspect's gas mask bag. No motive was given. And then the unthinkable got even worse. Suddenly overhead, there was a flash in the sky. A U.S. Patriot missile had struck what was thought to be an Iraqi missile. But instead, it apparently downed a British Tornado fighter jet returning from a mission. Both its crew are missing on a night when tragedy came calling on the coalition in the desert, not once, but twice. For Sunday Morning, this is Mark Strassman in Kuwait.
Man. Okay, Bart, walk us through this. Walk us through what happened, please.
So I'm watching golf, and outside my tent area there is a light set that we had to illuminate everything at night there for 20 nights. And
the wind was blowing and the flaps to the tent would move. And I noticed it one time and just looked over at the flaps just to see what was going on and realize, okay, the wind's blowing. That's what it is. I could hear it scraping up against the tent floor. And I'm sitting at the end of the table so I can kind of look straight down at the floor because I'm right at the end of the table. And I don't see this thing roll in, but I see sparks. So as soon as I see the sparks, I say we're in the land of not quite right. And this is a not quite right grenade that sparks before it explodes. I wasn't investigating, looking closer to see if it's an incendiary grenade or frag grenade. EOD can do that. That wasn't my job. I saw sparks. I got up, ran to the back of the tent. I knew the colonel was asleep. Again, I'm thinking not quite right. This is going to explode. I get him up. So we got a grenade is going to explode. Get your boots on. We got to get out of here. I get him up. Of course, he's just coming out of sleep. He'd been asleep for about a couple of hours. That's the earliest he went to bed.
And that was that Colonel Hodges we just saw in the clip?
Correct. He went to bed about 2,200 hours, so 10 p.m. that night. But that was the earliest he went to bed the whole time we were there to date. Anyway, I get him up, gets his boots on, and said, we're going to run on 3. So I'm on the side of the tent where that grenade came in. And I'm still thinking it's going to blow. So by this time, it already started to fire where I was watching the television. There's a fluorescent light up there that was fully illuminating the tent up there, but you can't see anything. It's like, put your hands over your eyes and put duct tape around there for 10 times. You can't see anything. But I knew where the little path was going down the middle of the tent. I positioned us in the middle and said, we're going to run on 3, 1, 2, 3, we take off running. I'm on that side where the grenade is. I put my hand up as if that's like my arm's going to protect me from a grenade blast. And I have him on the other side. Since he's just kind of waking up, he didn't know what's going on. His job was just to run, to get out of there. So while we're doing that, a frag grenade had been thrown in, unbeknownst to us, and then that goes off. Well, that knocks him back into his area. I keep on making out of the tent. Now, what I don't know is that it knocks him back. I get outside the tent. So also in the tent, there was my brigade executive officer, but he saw the sparks on the floor as I did. He was standing in a different position. I went to the back of the tent to get the colonel. I'm not sure what he did. So I'm booking out the tent thing. The colonel's beside me. I get out and I turn around and I don't see him. So I'm calling for him and kind of a low tone, not hollering. And he's not there, and I don't know where he is. Then I hear a gunshot. And when I hear the gunshot, I know it's coming in the vicinity of my tent, and I know that it's the executive officer. I just knew it was him who got shot. So I pull my pistol out, and mindful, I'm loading magazines on that table there I was sitting at. All my magazines are on that table. I have one in my weapon that I hadn't taken out the load. So I pull my pistol out, I cock it. For those of you who know how that works, if you have an automatic weapon, if you pull it to the rear and charge it and the round goes in it, you hear it. Well, I heard, which means the magazine is in there. There's no round. When there's no round, it just gets stuck. Will cock to the rear, it doesn't go forward, which means there's no rounds in your weapon. So, oh shit. I can't do anything. So the TOC's behind me. I run to the TOC to get a weapon. It might be a good time to put up one of those maps now. There we go. So
here we are. This was the table where you were watching golf.
Right. So you see the one right there. I'm sitting right there, and right at that end of that table, that enables me to see down to the tent floor. I get up and go to the back there. You see number 4 there. That number 4 is where Hodges and I I get him up. We're positioned right there to run right down the middle of that tent. So we take off and do that. But while we're going, you see where that frag grenade was thrown in, that explodes, knocks him back. I get out. I don't know, he's not beside me. And when I learned he's not, like I said, Major Romaine is kind of shot in that vestibule there. You see number 8, that's where that took place. I'm standing probably right about where these, you see those barriers there, the concrete barriers. I'm in between them, but on the other side of the barriers, to the left of them.
Got it.
Bart, if I may ask, that frag grenade that came in when you guys were running out, that exploded as you guys were getting out of the tent?
As we were coming out.
So the randomness of that grenade rolling to that side of the tent really saved both your lives.
Yeah, that was luck.
Yeah.
Just luck.
That was God looking out for us.
Yeah.
And what about the incendiary? Why would he have thrown an incendiary grenade?
Well,
Just
so
to start a fire.
when he took the grenades, he took well, math right, 3, 4, 5. I think he had 5 frag grenades total and 2 incendiary grenades. So my guess is when he threw the incendiary grenade in first, he didn't mean to do that. He knew he had them.
Got it.
But I don't think he meant to do that. So at that point, he didn't throw the incendiary grenade all night. They were all exactly that.
Okay. So that's luck. That's piece of luck number 2.
Yeah.
I mean, if this had been a fragmentation grenade and gone off.
Yeah, if that had been a frag grenade first, where you see table in number 1, Womack would have been spread all over the place like that frag grenade.
You wouldn't have been here talking to us, telling us this
I
story.
wouldn't be talking to you. Yeah. I look like red lines right now.
I got a picture of, I think this is the fragmentation grenade he probably used.
Yep.
These are and they look fairly, those of you who served in the Vietnam era, you were probably fragged. I mean, I hate to use that grim humor, but fragging is a term used for an attack on one of your own, usually a military superior. It became an epidemic in 1969 to 71 in Vietnam, maybe about 1,000 fraggings, it seems, in the late years of the Vietnam War. And it was named after this fragmentation grenade, which were usually pretty accessible. Anybody could get one. You didn't leave fingerprints. It wasn't traceable. And so this was the assassin's weapon of choice.
So I go to the TOC and get a weapon. Well, I run in there asking for a weapon and ammunition and nods because it's dark out and I can't see.
What can you say that again? You asked for NOGs?
Yeah, night division devices.
Okay, night vision devices. Okay.
Right. So someone gives me an M4 to give me ammo. I stick that in my cargo pockets. I get the nods and I go back out looking for the colonel and the executive officer. I go straight to my tent there, and they're not there. So I'm whispering in low tones again. I'm not hollering for them because whoever's attacking us, I don't want them to know where I am. So I go in there and they're not there. So the nods aren't not working that well, and I realize I can't search for them and search for Iraqi insurgents at the same time. So I'll go back to the TOC and tell someone, go find the colonel and Major Romaine, that's the executive officer. I'm going to go look for the enemy because that's who we think it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you would never think that it would be one of your own. It's an enemy attack, right?
So
what you had mentioned in the book was really, I mean, like the span of time from this point to going to the TOC, getting the weapon, and coming back out is a very short amount of time. Yeah, and everything was racing in your head about, we have such great security. How did the enemy get into the camp?
So the first time I went, I was pretty pissed as they were getting me that ammunition and stuff. I kicked the chair and like, how in the beep did they get in here? It was 2 nights before, and I had done this a few nights, but the most recent one was 2 nights before. I'd gone out and checked our guard posts and make sure everyone was doing the right thing, and that was squared away. So my first thought was they fell asleep and Iraqis got in. So I was really pissed that had happened. I didn't have proof of that, but that's what I thought had happened. That's the only way that insurgents could have gotten in. So I go back, I get someone else, you go find a colonel and XO, I'm going to look for the insurgents. As I'm walking out, I hear on the radio someone ask if we need a medic. And I know that at least Major Romaine is shot. It says, yes, cinematic in the vicinity of the top. Well, I'm sorry, it's in the FLA, with the field litter ambulance. So that ends up really kind of saving the day by getting those FLAs over there to treat wounded. Now, at the time, I don't know how many there are. I go back out, and as soon as I go out this time, I'm challenged. Someone says, halt, who's there? And I say, Sergeant Major. And I recognize the voice that's challenging me. For those of you who don't know, when someone says halt, it's kind of like the freeze when the police officer's saying that, someone's pointing a weapon at you. I couldn't see him, he couldn't see me because it's dark. I tell him who I am. He says, Sergeant Major, what the hell's going on? I say, I don't know. We're being attacked. I say, Major Romaine is shot. Then he tells me the Captain Seifert had been shot as well. So by the time I go in it a second time to get someone else to look for the colonel and the executive officer, another tent 2, the grenade has been thrown into there. So because of the grenade and the gunshot happening in my tent, people are starting to get up in this tent. So Phillips gets caught with shrapnel because he begins to get up. Major Frank wasn't there. Hedrick gets shrapnel in his feet.
Boy, so and I'm just going to let people know this is a very good illustration because it shows the location of the fragmentation grenade going off, and then the fragments, the destination or the trajectory of the fragments, and you could see that Major Phillips gets hit over here, Captain Wisher gets hit, Major Stone gets hit big time. Major Warren, is that his name, Warren?
So Frank was not in the tent, and Warren was in the top. He's our intelligence officer. He was in the top.
Good thing. Okay, yeah, it says here in talk, right?
You see over here at 8 and 9, they're kind of key there. Both of those are interpreters that came in just a few hours prior to the attack.
Ooh.
What is the dashed lines to the left of the interpreter? Is there a dividing, something that divides their space?
Yes. It's a little plastic partition that's in the tent.
A partition. Okay.
Yeah. So Captain Wisher and Major Stone are Air Force LNOs. They began to stand up. So that grenade comes, stand up, putting their pants on and getting dressed. And that's when that frag comes in and they get the worst of it.
Oh, LNO, is that liaison? What does that stand for?
Yeah, liaison officer.
Liaison officer, okay.
Yeah. They were our air support.
Okay.
Talking to the to jets.
Got it.
So they get the worst of it in that tent. Major Stone ends up getting 83 shrapnel holes in his body. And Wisher is pretty bad as well. Just fast forward, Stone doesn't survive. He dies of wounds. In back upper right-hand corner, there's our chaplain, and he got hit with shrapnel in his face.
Oh.
You can go to the next tent there, I believe. There's tent 3. So by this time, the people in tent 3 are beginning to come out. So he goes to tent 3, throws a grenade in there. But before he throws a grenade, again, some of them are coming out. If we go all the way to the back top right-hand corner there, Captain Holden, he's our headquarters company commander, a captain.
Got it.
So him and several people were on their way out of the tent, but he realized once he got to the vestibule that he didn't have his ammunition, so he went back in to get his ammunition. When he attempted to come out the second time, I think you see wherever his number is, number 12, I'm sorry, number 1, that's where he was moving, coming out the second time, and the grenade explodes right then and there. He's 17 inches away from that frag grenade.
Oh, and he survived. Did he not?
It.
Yeah, he survived. Tore his legs all up, but he survived. He's actually still in the military, a colonel, working at the Pentagon now, and probably make general here this year.
Man, oh man.
So at the time, Butera, Butera was in the shower, but you see where the grenade landed on his tent. So right where grenades landed, right where people were sleeping, they luckily were not in the tent. Butera was in the shower. Williams was in the shower. Frank from the other tent was in the shower, and Jones was in the shower. He came back in.
And is it worth mentioning, though, I think the attacker Hasan, he was injured after the first incendiary grenade fragmentation grenade that he threw into your tent, correct?
Yeah, you can go back, Todd, if you can first. So, yeah, no, right here. So where that grenade landed, so what happened, he threw the grenade in. I believe he threw it in with his right arm and just kind of slung it to the left there, and that's why I went so far to that left wall. And same thing with the incendiary grenade. He'd done the same thing by slinging that in to the right side of the tent as you're coming in from the vestibule. But after he threw the frag in, so we throw grenades in holes and then we get out of the way of the blast, right?
Yeah.
I'm not thinking this is just a tent, so it's not a concrete or anything like that. His idea to get out of the way of the blast was throw a grenade in, then he ran to that same side of the tent to get out of the way of the blast. Well, the blast went straight through the tent. So you see where the blast protrudes the tent in those lines. Yeah. He got injured in the leg.
Got it. He got hit by it.
Yeah. All right. I think you can go back one. I think I finished that tent there. I think we're straight on that one.
Captain Seifert gets hit, and is he
so
killed?
By this time, Seifert's out of the tent. Only people left in the tent to get hit is Marcello. He got injured pretty bad. Evacuated, never returned. Martone injured bad, evacuated, never to return. He was our JAG officer. Seifert is out of the tent. So he threw the grenade in. If you look to number 11 there, that's where Seifert had moved to. So after Akbar throws a grenade, he shoots Seifert point blank in the back there and then runs in between that open area.
So he shoots Seifert in the back.
Oh, you can go to the next slide. So here's his path. I made note of the second of the 327th way over there. I believe they were pad 4. So he comes all the way from there. So again, ammunition came in late that day, right around dusk or so. He volunteered for guard. So it was him and another person on guard. He told that person, "You can go to sleep, I got it." And that's when he opened. So the ammunition was not open at all. He opened it up, took out what he wanted to use. So his path, he came all the way from pad 4, all the way over to the generator first, turned out the generator lights so no one could see.
Turns out the lights, okay.
Yep, moved to 3 there, and that's when he began to take ammunition out of the bandolier because the bandolier was laying on the ground there. Moves to 4, throws in the frag grenade, incendiary grenade, then threw in the frag grenade, then shoots Major Romaine, moves there to number 7, 10-2, throws that grenade in. Number 8, 10-3, throws that grenade in. Number 9, shoots Seifert in the back, and then moves to where you see there. So by this time, people are out of their tents, for the most part, after 9 happens. And I'm about where you see the S4, S1, somewhere in that vicinity, putting people along this back wall. We see it says concrete barriers to the top left there.
Okay.
People along there in security and everything. Again, we're still looking for insurgents. So we can't find them. I go back in the talk and I say something changed overnight. Something had to have happened here different this night versus all the other nights. And then Major Warren tells me that interpreters came in last night. Say, bingo, it's them.
Bingo.
Yep. That was the only change to the camp.
Right.
So they go look for the interpreters. Again, they were back there in tent 2. By now they're out and about someplace. They have to find them. They capture them.
See here, they were here in tent 2. These were
Right.
their bunks.
Right. So they capture them, obtain them. They got guns pointed at their heads, flex cuff behind their back, and then we finally get them interrogated. And they were interrogated. We see that S1, S4 tent there. That's where the interrogation took place, just to learn that it's not them. So then we're back to the insurgents. Again,
you said also in the book that you were trying to protect the interpreters from everyone else as well. Like, don't tell everyone where we're putting them.
Right. That was Captain Hedrick's call to do that, to keep because when word got out that it might be them, that's like it is them.
Yep.
We didn't want anyone, taking any action against them, especially when we didn't know anything.
What would you say is the amount of time that had transpired between at the beginning of the attack and when first aid and life flight started evacuating the injured?
First aid?
First aid was like immediate?
Pretty much. It was within the first 15 minutes by the time that first FLA came over. So they load up, you saw people carrying out on those litters, they load them up in FLAs. FLAs went to the aid station where I showed you in the diagram. So one FLA went, then another until we got them all over there. And they did what they could to treat them until medevac came. So the helicopters, the medevac was the CASH, Combat Support Hospital, was only about 3 kilometers away. So by air, we're talking about, a couple of minutes once they're airborne. So they flew over with the first bird, landed, it got loaded up. They flew them over 3 kilometers to that CASH. The second one lands. As they're loading it up, that's when a big fireball happens in the sky. I mean, huge. Wasn't necessarily all that loud. Now, my senses of sound and all that stuff were not very good. Something about adrenaline takes over and you're just focused on what you're focused on. Huge explosion in the sky happens. We don't know what it is. Well, what we suspect that it is they're attacking us from the ground and the air. So now we have a coordinated attack.
Yeah.
But as those casualties have been loaded into that second bird to go to the CASH, is just 3 kilometers away and just a few minutes flight. Now they're told they can't fly over there. So they're lucky to get airborne in and of itself, because they kind of shut down the air. But they did let them fly to another CASH. Unfortunately, that CASH was 70 kilometers away. That had Romaine in there, as well as Seifert. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I can't say that. I would like to think had he gotten to the first CASH just a few minutes away, that he may have survived. But
might have made it.
70 kilometers.
Yeah, he might have made it. How did you all finally realize that this was not an insurgent attack, that it was an embedded enemy? Yeah,
so once we learned it's not the interpreters, the search began again for insurgents, of which we cannot find. It's just mass chaos, confusion on the camp there. And if you remember the first diagram, go back to the first diagram of the camp itself.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle there, pad 7. So obviously all friendly, all of my own troops are all around us, but we're setting up perimeter around just pad 7 because that's where we believe the insurgents to be. But look who's all around us, and our weapons are pointed out at all those people, which are ours.
Right.
So commander comes out of his concussed state from that frag grenade and gets back to our SOPs and says we need to get accountability of everyone. And our S3 officer makes that call on the net to get accountability and report that back to the headquarters. And that's when we learned from 2nd Battalion there that a person is missing. His name is Sergeant Akbar, as well as grenades and ammunition. So then he becomes the primary suspect. So Major Warren and I had been doing kind of the same things all night. Something added to his particular responsibilities, if you will, was he was checking all these bunkers. He kept going to all these bunkers, and as he approached these bunkers, he would say, "Who do you have here? Who's in the bunker?" And they would say who they were, and he'd give them a little instruction. Then he'd move on to the next one. So we come out of the talk after we learned that it's Akbar. Once we digest that it's one of our own, it took a minute for that. Are you kidding me? Okay. So he comes out of the talk there, and then he realizes bunker number 10 that he had not gone to that bunker all night.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I moved toward where our tents are to try to tell our senior leaders on the ground, and something I'll admit it. When I made that, when the medic got on the radio, the reason he got on the radio to ask if I needed an FLA or if we needed an FLA was because I had made a call when I went out that time to find the colonel and the XO, and I couldn't find them. And then send someone else out to find them. I realized that I was by myself out here trying to find these insurgents. People, they weren't necessarily slow to come out. They were coming out, but I just weren't seeing them, and I didn't think we had the manpower to look like we needed to all over this area. So I called up 2nd Battalion. Now I used to be the sergeant major in 2nd Battalion, and maybe that's why I called them first. You see, they were the furthest away. I should have called someone closer, but just intuitively, I called no slack. I said, I need a squad over here. No, I make it a platoon. So that platoon, it come over to help search our area as well. And then that medic heard me on the radio, and that's when he asked if I needed an FLA. But Warren realized he hadn't checked that bunker. So I'm going and telling the leader of that platoon that came over, as well as our other leaders on the ground, who we're looking for, that, he's going to look like us in the same uniform and all those types of things. So, I didn't tell them how they were going to tell the lower leadership or the lower subordinates how they were going to deal with that, how they were going to deal with that particular threat that is one of ours, and how do you ascertain, who it is exactly versus someone else, and they're wearing the same uniform. I'll let those leaders handle that. And Warren realized he hadn't checked that bunker, so he went to bunker 10 there. As he's walking over there, he has his weapon out like he had all night, and said, "Who we have over here?" And then he hears Sergeant Akbar. Well, Akbar doesn't know we're looking for him. So it's something psychological. I'm not a doctor, but if we had them here, I'm sure they could probably answer some of this. And this is what I think about all these attacks as I follow them, that they all can be much worse than they usually are. And that something turns that attacker on to attack in the manner that they do, and then something turns them off. I don't know what that is. So before Akbar gets in bunker 10, he had made it to another bunker, and it had several people in there. He still had grenades, still had his weapons, still had ammunition, but he didn't do anything to those people.
How about that?
That's one of the biggest questions I had about this, was that he stopped the attack.
Right.
And you'd think that him coming into this, he would think, well, I'm going down fighting. This is, a suicide mission for me. And yet he gets found in a bunker, like he's injured. And he has a weapon. He doesn't seem to fight back. It's just very, very odd to me that he just sort of stopped and went to the bunker and
yeah. So he goes to the, I think just psychologically, like I said, if you look at all these attacks, and I will point out a few of them where it can always be worse.
Yeah.
Something turns them on and something turns them off.
Right.
Warren goes there, he has his pistol out, says, "Who we have here?" He says, "Son Akbar." And there's another person in there with Akbar, and that guy says who he is. So Warren realized that there's Akbar for the second time in 5 minutes or so, has the wherewithal to holster his weapon so he doesn't look like a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Just walks his way on up to the bunker. Again, Akbar didn't know we're looking for him. And he positioned himself beside him, and then he just takes him down. It's just this wrestling match or whatever. Even though he's getting about 40 pounds, he ends up winning that. And then some other people come to assist, and that's how we apprehend him.
Wow.
So in that bunker, he still has, again, his weapon and ammunition, protective mask carrier that he had all night, and that still has grenades and, frag grenades and a couple of incendiary grenades.
Let's, before we open up for Q&A and comments and everything, what was his motive? What was Hasan Akbar's motive?
He said he was asked the first time, why he did it. And so he began to answer, one of our guys said, shut the F up or whatever, because he was mad. So he asked him again, and Akbar's response was, well, you told me to shut up before. Well, now I'm telling you to speak. So he said, to keep y'all from killing our women and raping our children. No, I'm sorry. He said, you guys are coming into our countries and you are killing our women and raping our children.
Okay. All right.
So I heard that at the same time when they asked him that, and I had to pause again to think, who the hell is our? I was stumped on our.
I think if I may jump in, I think it's kind of important to state that Akbar, inmate Akbar, as I call him now, was from Chicago.
LA,
sorry, LA. And that's what, as someone that was there, that's what sits hard with me, personally. The last week or so is always difficult to get through.
The anniversary you're talking about.
It's 18 years.
Yeah.
It's 18 years this week. It was 18 years on Tuesday. I mean, last Tuesday for me is always a hellish day. I spent last Tuesday outside up my fire pit with a few beers, some cigars, and just thinking back of all the memories, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
The one part that I'll add to this whole attack was, so my job within the brigade combat team was I was the communications chief. So where you saw that diagram with where Akbar took his path, you'll see the command tent. To the left of that, right above a bunker, was my communication. Yeah, so you see this briefing tent. If you go to the left of these bunker walls, there was a Humvee, which was the SAN, the small area node commo van. I had a soldier in that van. I was sleeping in pad 2. I heard on the short band, hey, there's something going on at the talk. I hauled ass to check on my soldier. I grabbed the padlock, I opened the door, and I told my soldiers that if anyone knocks on this door, doesn't identify himself as either Sergeant Keene or Kilo Echo 5, which was my radio call sign, his mission was to put a bullet hole through that wall, because the Humvee door, the wall's not that thick. And I locked my soldier in that vehicle. He stayed locked in that vehicle from midnight till approximately 0900 the next morning. I just locked him in it. He couldn't go to the bathroom. He couldn't do anything. And I felt really, really bad. But to Sergeant Major's credit, and he won't toot his own horn, so I'll toot it for him. Again, it was Sergeant Major's outstanding leadership. I can't put it into words. Like, you got to think about, 2003, I was 22 years old, freshly minted E5. Sergeant Major on any rank to anybody is this bigger than life person. And to me, Sergeant Major was a 7-foot, 300-pound giant who could flatten me with his hand. He could just do whatever. If he didn't want me to do anything, he'd just slap me and I would fall. But that day I saw Sergeant Major come from a giant brute to one of the most caring people I've seen in my life. What he did that night to keep the battalion, the brigade together, truly, and I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again, it truly saved other people's lives. I think the reason that Akbar didn't do anything in that other bunker was because he was trying to hit us at the head, cut the head of the snake off, take out the command. Because for those of us served in the military, we always take our orders from higher. Well, if you take out the sergeant major and the colonel, we're headless. He was going after that head. And rather than taking off the head, I think he sparked something in Sergeant Major that fell down to the rest of the battalion, the rest of the brigade, to stand up and fight. And it stuck with us because, we went through hell and back again as a team. And, it was a few years following the attacks that I finally went out to a golf outing that we have for Chris. out in Easton, PA. It's the first time I saw Sergeant Major in a long, long time. And I was scared. I was nervous because, again, this image of Sergeant Major I had in my head was a 7-foot giant, this behemoth of a man who could move a mountain just by yelling at it. And I walked up to Sergeant Major and I said, Sergeant Major, my name is Sergeant Keene. I serve with you in the 101st Airborne. You know, and since then, you know, when I found out Sergeant Major moved back here to Pittsburgh and stuff like that, it just really changed how I do things. So I think, you know, again, he won't take that kind of credit. I know he won't. He's very humble. But I think Sergeant Major not only saved the brigade, but he saved so many lives beyond that.
You know, we're approaching here 8:30, and I do want to continue the conversation, but I want to make sure if people have questions and comments that they feel free to unmute themselves, chime in, put a question in the chat, however they want to do it.
I chime in with one here.
Sure.
Bart, you mentioned in the book, and it was something that I was hoping you could elaborate on here, is that from that night on, it was really hard to trust your soldiers, experiencing, you know, an embedded enemy and that type of attack. How did you overcome that feeling? Did you ever overcome that feeling? How did you reconcile with that?
So no, have not overcome. I don't think I ever will overcome. So to add to that, the same guy who was challenging me in the dark, you know, saying who's there, he thought when he was coming out of his tent right after Captain Cypher was shot and saw a figure run off into the dark, and then he thought that he saw a second one. So he thought that there were two. And that's what he gave to CID, thinking there was two. So you almost got me once, you're not gonna get me again. So I had a platoon come over that night. You know, so we go out after that night of the attack and through the day and all that. That second night, I had a platoon come over and guard where you saw that pad 7, guard that area, all that brigade talk area, because he thought that there was a second person. And I'm thinking, it's like you talk about the trust, well, you almost got me once, you're not gonna get me again. So just think about that. I show you the diagram where pad 7 is, and all around pad 7 is who? Oh, all my soldiers. So I have my soldiers protecting the brigade area from my soldiers. So yeah, that trust runs deep, probably never gonna go away. I'm not trying to make it go away. I just work on, you know, triage, and everyone has to prove it to me now.
I want to welcome, I think I see Anthony. I don't believe I've seen you on one of our programs before, so I just wanted to welcome you here. Hello, Anthony. If you have any, you know, special connection to this story while you're joining us, please do feel free to let us know. No need to if you don't want to, but would love to, you know, love to hear from you. George Kniss. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Coming from the Vietnam perspective of the fragging that took place then, there's fragging and then there's fragging is the way I look at it. This case, and I remember this on television back then, stunned me that someone who is an American soldier, I think he was born and raised in the US,
yes,
had these sympathies by ethnic or heritage or religion to strike at your own people. That is not the fragging that took place in Vietnam.
No.
The Vietnam fragging was distinctly soldiers that were fearful of misdeeds of errant officers, if I could characterize it like that.
Yes.
This is like so insidious. It's insurrection. It's striking at your own people because of your ethnic or religious background, even when you are born and raised here. Is that the way you folks see it? That's a question.
No, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's an all-out attack. I wrote a quote. We may get to it here at some point, but what I learned from all this, in writing the book, it was several-fold. I won't say 2 or 3, but several-fold of why to tell and share this story. One, I didn't think the world knew. Like you say, you remember, there's many people on this call that have no idea what we're talking about until now. So that's why I was compelled to tell the story. Secondly, it was to our fallen needed to be recognized in that period, and more importantly, because of how this happened. And what I did mention, I want to pay respect to Flight Lieutenant Kevin Main and Flight Lieutenant Dave Williams. Those were the pilots that were killed by friendly fire from the Patriot missile. And I'm sorry, I should say that. Well, they said that in the video that a Patriot missile shot down the British torpedo jet.
Right.
But it's to recognize them in hopes that in telling the story and even moving it to the platform of a movie that somehow it would not have died in vain. So back to the quote, and this is one way to leverage the attack. Like you said, a fellow American soldier, obviously rogue at this point, had his own goals and reasons. He was a Muslim. Now, that's not to say that all are like that. That is not the case. 911 was something different. All these other attacks are different. But when the synagogue was shot up here in Pittsburgh, I don't think it's not a religious thing. It's people. That's why the book said way back then, you have to have a hook when you write a book. When you want to get people interested in your story, it has to be a hook. And I had to do a lot of work to come up with the hook. That's why I said we have met the enemy, and it is us.
Mm-hmm.
The quote is, "No profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than you think." So what happened that night is just a method of the insider threat. When you think about it, perfect cover-up. Put on the same uniform, come serve for a little while, then decide you're going to plan this attack. It's perfect. That's why we have to pay attention to one another. That's why I go speak about situational awareness security. It's not that I have trust issues. It's that this is the reality. Domestic terrorism is our new reality.
And Bert,
wake up and recognize that.
This repeated itself how many years ago with the Muslim? He was a JAG guy, went into a fort. I'm not sure what the location was. Again, it was an army fort, and he shot people.
Yeah.
And he had served a number of years, and he was an American-born guy.
He was a doctor,
So
profession, an army doctor. Speaks from no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. It's the perfect cover-up. But I would say, I would ask you not to confuse that method. It is a method. Don't confuse that method with the shooter in Las Vegas of the concert. Don't that method with any of the others. That's domestic terrorism is our new reality. There was a soldier again, but it's not soldiers. What we don't do, we don't go home with people. They come to our units, we do all our stuff, and then they go home to wherever they go to. We don't know what they do. We don't know what they're listening to. We don't know what they're talking to. So realize that it's a method. How do we fix that from a armed forces perspective? I don't know. I don't know how we fix that. But I do think, and I put in the book intentionally, that I put in there strategies to try to mitigate domestic terrorism as a whole. And there's ways. I do think that at the lowest level where Sergeant Akbar was, that there was leadership there, had they been paying attention to the signs that something was wrong. Yeah. Now that something's not going to be that tonight when the ammo comes, he's going to go commit this attack. That wasn't the sign. but there's something if you're paying attention. Even if you have all the soldiers over here and he's being standoffish and over here routinely. In that particular time of the war, you go find a leader goes find out what's going on, what's wrong. Is it something at home? Is it the whole war in general? Something. And that's what leadership has to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that came out of all this, as we progressed through Iraq and we liberated Najaf and Karbala and Ahla and all the way up to Mosul, as an NCO with 3 soldiers, this is my first real combat experience being a leader. I found myself continuously checking in with each of my soldiers saying, how are you? Not how was your day, not how are things, how are you? How are you physically? How are you mentally? How are you? And we always had like these little powwows, and it was always just me and that one soldier. I really try to keep us one-on-one with these kind of talks. And they would do the same thing to me. They would say, how are you doing? What's going on with you? To kind of figure out, because after all this, that was the main question of why did he wait till March 23rd? He could have done this anytime. He could have done this at the range. We went to Sergeant Major always had us at the range. I can't tell you how many times I went to range route at Fort Campbell because Sergeant Major wants to get our scores up. He could have done it there. But he waited until March 23rd in a foreign country when I don't know if he knew that we got the interpreters that afternoon or not, but in the back of my head, like if I knew that and if I had the thought of taking this attack and I knew, oh, here's the perfect cover, because truthfully, and at least in my head, if he wouldn't have wounded himself, spotting him would have been a little bit harder if he would have went back to his pad and stood for accountability. Because if he would have went straight to his pad and not got wounded, no one would have known the difference.
No one would have known. Randy Levander, Randy, thank you for joining us. He put a question in the chat and a wonderful comment. the people who are wounded, the 14, I believe, injured, 2 killed at Camp Pennsylvania on March 23rd, 2003, none of them received a Purple Heart. You have advocated, Bart, for them to receive a Purple Heart. Is there any progress on that, or is there any possibility of that happening?
No progress. I wasn't the one. I was an advocate, but someone else did the leg work, and I still don't have it. I don't have an update, but I'm very confident that it's going to happen.
Okay.
It was awarded to those at Fort Hood. I don't see a difference. That particular attack was quickly, politicians pushed for this, but it was quickly called, domestic terrorism, where ours never has been.
That is so bizarre to me. I just got to say, 18 years later, what facts are they waiting up? Okay. If the Fort Hood victims got all right. Was the attacker prosecuted? Where is he now? Asked Glenn Flickinger. I believe he's languishing on death row at Fort Leavenworth. Is that correct?
He was sentenced death penalty, and he's at Fort Leavenworth awaiting execution. But wouldn't hold your breath for that. And there's a line. There's actually 4 there that are kind of in line to be executed. It's him. It is the attacker, Major Hasan from Fort Hood. A guy named Gray, and I forget the other guy's name. Gray's next in line. Almost kind of disheartening to talk about, but anyway.
Yeah.
But there is 4, but no, it hasn't happened to anyone since 1961. So don't hold your breath.
There has not been a military execution since 1961.
No.
Okay. That's something I need to read up on. Thank you for letting me know that part. I see that it's almost 8:45. This is, we've gone past our usual time. I also see that Marie Hamblett has been on from Leadership Pittsburgh for the Community Leadership Course for Veterans, CLCV. Marie, if you want to come on and make a pitch and let people know about CLCV, I assume that you're still recruiting for the next class?
Oh my goodness. caught me off guard there.
Hey, well, Mary, what am I going to do? I see that you're here.
No,
I know it's hard to transition.
I'm listening. I've been listening, and
It's a tough act to follow. I know.
I know. Really,
I know.
really.
I'm sorry to do it to you, but I just didn't know any other way to do it.
It's okay, Bart. It's very nice to see you. It's been some time, and I've appreciated this time hearing the story, and I too remember when it was on television. And Ben Keem, nice to see you. I've just lost you from my screen. There you are. How you doing? Ben's a CLCV graduate.
Class 2, best class.
Best class ever. Oh, well, so I very much appreciate that, Todd. It's very nice of you. So CLCV Community Leadership Course for Veterans is a program. I'm the program director with Leadership Pittsburgh, Inc. We're a small nonprofit here in town. Our mission is to strengthen leadership through programs, partnerships, and connections, and we do that primarily through several community engagement and civic leadership programs. One of them is Community Leadership Course for Veterans, or CLCV. And so it's aimed at leveraging the skills and experiences of post 9/11 veterans by exposing them to new networks and opportunities for service to Southwestern Pennsylvania. So they have an opportunity to meet with regional business and community leaders to establish sort of a greater understanding of the history of Pittsburgh and the context and sort of issues and trends. And they have an opportunity to utilize their leadership skills to accomplish a community impact project for a nonprofit. And so we are currently recruiting for CLCV 8. And applications are due at the end of April 30th, and the program will kick off mid-July. And if you have any questions, I'll throw my information in the chat, but if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me and talk, I'd be happy to do that. And thank you for that.
And don't hesitate to contact me. I could put you in touch with Marie. It's a wonderful course. It's a wonderful program. If you know of a veteran who might be able to benefit from it, please do let me know. I could connect you with Marie. Thank you Marie for hanging out with us. And
absolutely. It's I had this on my schedule to attend, to be here, and then I found out the other day that Bart was going to be here and that this was what was being done tonight. So I'm delighted.
Boy, it's some story.
Firsthand. Yeah, it's been some absolutely story. Unbelievable.
It's some story, and it's also it's remarkable that it's just one day of a 29-year career. I think that's what gets me. Obviously, it's a particularly important day, but it's just one day. Bart has had such a varied and fascinating and intense 29 years in the military. Once again, I do want to have Bart come back. Pat, were you going to say something, Pat Hughes? I saw you raise your hand. Okay. Just, yeah, it's if anybody does have any kind of, comment they want to make or question they want to ask, please do feel free to do so. Bart, I'm grateful that you gave us so much time to and care and prepare these wonderful diagrams and maps that really walked us through that evening. I understand it a lot better now than I did before. I will be asking you to come back. I mean, I'd love to have you on in May for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, whose 100th anniversary we are marking this year. And then also a program on that unique job of drill instructor. I would love to have people who had that job come and share their stories.
I would say that I know Ben has a different take on all this, and when that time comes up every year, I live this every day. I think it's important for us to tell our stories. You have to find a way to do it. At first, I thought I just needed to get it out of my head, and then once I did that and got it on something, cards, paper, whatever, it began to be the book, and then that wasn't enough, and then it turned to be the screenplay, and my goal is to have this on screen, so have a lot of leverage for that right now. So look for that March 23rd, 2023, 20-year anniversary.
Oh my. Oh wow. We'll have to do some kind of screening. Lisa, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share something with Bart that I didn't get a chance to share with him. He was kind enough to sign my copy of his book last year. And I read it myself and I shared it with my son. Now, my son grew up in the military. His dad was Air Force. His dad was stationed in Afghanistan. So he always had a hard time dealing with his dad when he deployed. He read the book. And also my son was at Franklin Regional years back when the stabbing happened. One of his friends was hurt, things like that. Your book actually got my son to talk about that for the first time since it happened. He recognized something in your book with their experience that day. I know it's a different level, but it did get him to talk. And that happened 2014. So, I mean, it was, or 2013 or 14, I can't remember now, but I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. As I mentioned, we need to tell our stories. Holding them in doesn't do us any good. Doesn't make whatever's inside of us go away, but I think we need to tell our stories. And sometimes it may not be to the audience that you want it to be. And don't think about who can understand it, just tell it. Yeah. Help people understand. And that's what I did with this. And doing the work and growing with this all the time, the hook, and it's kind of funny. I couldn't get it all done. Like, why am I stuck? I couldn't get unstuck. And then I started following domestic terrorist attacks and realized that, okay, this was just one method. That if we keep thinking there's a profile and thinking that everyone's going to look like 911 when it has to be that horrific, we're going to be stuck in that. And when that happens, okay, then the grocery store gets shot up in Colorado. And when that happens, then the movie theater gets shot up in Colorado. And then unfortunately, it's the synagogue in Pittsburgh. And you know that I can go on and on and on and on. And so this story, and following this and doing all the work, it is to educate our society that we have to take charge and omit some of the things, because law enforcement can't be everywhere. And the money that it takes to do the things to apprehend and capture an attacker is, we don't have the money. So case in point of the money is one of the Sinai brothers in the Boston Marathon bombing. They were watching one of them. They were watching the older brother, one of them getting killed. They were on him. And then his pattern changed where he wasn't doing anything. And then it costs money to keep following him around and tracking him and watching every step and all that. So, but as soon as they did, boom. And another part that I do in situational awareness security speaking and telling people that if they pay attention, that the signs are there. So the younger brother, after 9/11, so long before the Boston Marathon bombing, after 9/11, he said to a group of young people, sometimes acts like 9/11 have to happen. So if you're this true blood American, with all this patriotism, and you're in a forum with other young people and you hear someone say that, well, that's a sign. And that's the education I'm trying to impart on society about paying attention. That is the awareness. So who do you know that it would not stand out or would stand out if they said that sometimes attacks like that are warranted? I mean, that, whatever flag you want to give that, red flag, blue flag, green flag, whatever it is, there's something alarming there. But if you're just a young person and student, just like the people he was talking to, you don't pay any attention to that. You don't report that. But then after the bombings, when they're talking to people who knew them, that's what they said. They knew someone who said that
after those bombings, sometimes that's warranted. That's a sign. That has to be reported. That's what's in the back of the book of strategies to try to omit these things. And if we follow all of them, I know we have time tonight, but there's a story like that follows all of them.
Right.
And just real quick to jump on what Lisa was saying about her son. Lisa, to give you some insight into myself, a few years ago, I actually teamed up with Todd and the VBC and Sergeant Major Womack, and we did a same type of an event, but we did it at Soldiers and Sailors back, before we could actually gather. And I had Sergeant Major sign my book, and that was what, Todd, like 2011, 2012, something like that.
Something like that.
That book sat on my bookshelf until 2018 without the spine ever being broken. In 2018, I was sitting in my apartment in McCandless, about to getting ready to get married to my wife, actually, leading up to my marriage. I broke the spine. It took that. The book is not very long. For those people that don't like me, that don't like reading, the book is not very long. And trust me, it'll pull you in and you will get through it. It took me 2.5 months to get through that book, because as I was reading it, everything came flying back. I could smell the smells. I could see the darkness of that night. I could hear the sounds. I could see the large flash in the sky as I was reading that book. But what came of that was I finally sat down with my wife and I told her, this is why March is so hard. This is why I get quiet. This is what happens to me. And it really pushed me forward. And I credit the now to, I'm back in the VA. I'm getting treatment. I see my therapist once a week, every Monday. And we're doing a lot better. So to not just to Lisa's son, but to any veteran out there, we all have our stories. We all keep them pent up inside because, again, we all serve and we're the ones called to help. And so we're very reluctant to call upon help for ourselves. But whatever it takes, whether it's events like this or just talking to a fellow veteran, get out and just open up. We've all been there. Zero judgment, shed a tear, do whatever you need to do, but get out there and tell your stories.
Great message, Ben. That's exactly it. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Bart.
Can I say one last thing? I
Sure.
want to pay close attention in your surroundings. Now, in the book, I tell you, don't be scared. It's not the time to be scared. I just want you to pay attention. That's all. So as we are we cannot wait to get back out there and do all the things that we did in 2019. Gather and all that stuff. Someone else can't wait either. I just want you to be situationally aware and realize that. It's not look over your shoulder every second. Bart doesn't trust anything or anyone. Bart's just situationally aware, and I'm asking you to do the same thing. Just pay attention and listen. Don't just hear, listen.
Well, on that note, thank you, Bart. Thank you for that reminder, and thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. The Veterans Breakfast Club is going on spring break next week. I'm going to Cancun. Sean is going to Cozumel. Ellie, she's going to go to Daytona Beach. We're just kidding. We're going to be putting together the Veterans Breakfast Club magazine that we're going to be.
We'll be doing it from the Seychelles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're just going to have a week of no programming to get some other work done, and then we'll be back on Monday night, April 12th. Please do join us if you can. We'll send out email reminders. But I hope that you all have enjoyed, first of all, a prank-free April Fool's Day, a happy Holy Thursday, Maundy Thursday, and I hope you have all a great weekend and a happy Easter. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Bart. Thanks,
Bye.
Ben.
Thank you,